Hi guys. So I got a lid and I got a ring on it and I can't get it off. Like I've even got one of these like little rubber grippy things and I can't get this ring off. So today we're going to talk about storing and how to use our jars and lids properly. Okay, so as you can kind of see in here, you can see some of my jars. None of them have the rings on them. So they're all just the jar and the lids. Now, if you're very, very new to canning, you may or may not know there's the three components. You've got your jars, you've got your lids, and then you've got your rings or bands. When you start canning, you're going to, of course, ensure that your jars don't have any cracks or splits in them or chips. And then you can wipe it down with a damp wet cloth around the ring. I even tend to go a little bit on the inside. You can also use white vinegar, and then your processed lids you will take out and place on top, and this is going to help ensure during the canning process that you get a really good seal. Now, you will be putting your bands on finger tight. There's no need to like hunk them down and get them really tight. One of the biggest misconceptions that I hear people say is they like to leave these on for ever, I guess, indefinitely, because they're afraid their seal will break. I would just want to stop that right there. So if you have a very, very good seal and you're not going to be getting botulism, this ring isn't going to make a difference anyway. So don't think that these rings are helping you to continue your seal. If it doesn't seal good without this ring, then it didn't seal good, period. So these rings mean nothing to your long-term shelf life of your canned goods. If you have, for example, this is cream of mushroom soup minus the cream. This is something that I use a lot. I can this all the time. And I actually, my mother and I are making a canning cookbook, and this is one of the recipes in there since it's one of our house staples. But you know, if I've had these before, I had one or two that didn't seal, and I mean, if I can hold it by the lid itself and it's not coming off, you know I've got a good seal. Let me put that out there too. The other misconception is you don't have to sit here and stir your stuff all the time. That's not going to make a difference if your stuff is preserved properly. I just heard that one the other day and I thought, okay. So making sure that you want to take your bands off. This is a really important step. Number one, you don't want that false presentation that your bands are protecting your seal. You don't want botulism. If it's not giving you that pop when you pull your lid off, you just want your food to be safe, because if you get botulism, you're not going to be able to smell it. You're not going to be able to taste it, but you're going to know it. So let's not have false hope with these rings and just do away with them. Now, there's another thing that you'll need to know about this as well. When you have your canning goods, and if you're stacking them like this, if you can see that there, if you're stacking them for a long-term time, you're doing a couple of things. Let me get one here that's, put this down. So you're doing a couple of things. So I've got my corn here. I do have a couple things that are stacked, but those are items I plan on using relatively soon, maybe within 6 months to a year. But if you're going long term and you've got things stacked up, especially if it's heavy things, you're also losing or using the risk by doing that of losing your food. And here's why. So the pressure of another jar on top can actually flatten out the outer ring of your canning lid. So if you can see, there is this little lip that goes around and this little lift right here, and then you've got your rubber seal. Now this lip right here, which is holding that rubber seal, can get flattened out by the weight. Now what happens when that process begins is the seals can start to lift and you might not even know it. And then again, botulism. Like, we don't want your food to go bad. You work so hard to like either grow it or pick it or go to the farmer's market or local farms, and then you take all that time to preserve it. You want it to last. You want your family healthy and safe. So if it's something that's not really heavy and you know that you're going to use it in 6 to 12 months and you just don't have the space, I'm not saying it's probably going to happen that fast. As you can see, I have a couple things stacked. Like, I have this little tiny thing with hardly any nuts in it. I mean, it's extremely light on top of a jar back here. I've got a few things that are stacked up, but I try not to do too heavy just for that reason alone. So that is something that you're going to want to watch out for. So just kind of try to limit that if you can. The other thing that will happen with your rings around your jars over a period of time is they can accidentally still have moisture in them from your processing time, and they can start to cause rust. So if you can see that, you could potentially get some rust. Now, sometimes this happens. I have found jars that, like, I've had multiple jars, many days of canning. I'm sure some of you have also gone through this before, where I've had every counter, my table, my chest freezer, everything's filled with jars because we're just canning, and haven't put anything away yet. And then maybe I'll get a bunch of family over that's helping, or the kids or whatever, and things start to get put away and lids get missed. It happens to the best of us. And and then you're stuck with one that you can't get off. And that's potentially because it's stuck on there from the moisture, and then it lets sit, especially if it got any kind of sticky along the rim that didn't get properly wiped out. So you really want to take them off. And then you can just store them away and make it really easy for later use. I basically just use a piece of twine. I've also used, I have strips of bed sheets that I use to make braided rugs, and sometimes I'll use stuff like that. I've got those little pushy clothes hanger things, curtain rod things that line them up. There's like a million things you can do. You can Pinterest it. I'm sure you can find stuff on there. But anyway, so I just do this. I have it hanging on a hook, and I can literally just pull one off and put it back on. I don't have to do anything special. And I have one for, you know, we've got rings galore around here. So that's something you can do to kind of help get them out of your way, out of a drawer, and really getting them off the lids, which is the main part of it. So a couple other little tips that you might want to look out for when processing, just to ensure you have the best product ever when you go to open it. Another item tip would be to not overfill your jars. Certain recipes require anywhere between 1/4 to 1 inch of headspace. That's that little group at the top. You will see you have your measurement right here, and sometimes they require more. So it just depends on the individual recipe. So that's one thing that you'll definitely want to pay attention to, because that can affect how well your seal is. And oftentimes, if you don't follow that properly, you can have spillage into your pot that you're cooking in. So if you've ever seen, that's one of the reasons anyway, but if you've ever seen like your water had turned a color of whatever you were producing, or you've got, tomato seeds running around in there, that could be a reason why, is because you're not using the proper headspace. Another thing that you really, really, really want to pay attention to is your pressure and your poundage for your altitude. This is huge. Now, I'm at like this awkward, weird border, and I have to really, really pay attention to mine. I can vary. It's really weird. We are a couple hours from the coast, um, and we're in the mountains, but our elevation's really low. So we range anywhere from like 986 feet to 1,010 feet, depending on what instrument you're using. I don't know how that's possible. I don't even begin to understand it. I like to use, I have a specific watch that gives me altitude and barometer and blah, 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 blah. I like to use that a lot because I feel like it might be more accurate. But you really definitely are going to want to watch where you're at and learn to adjust it, and really pay attention on your gauge of your pressure canner where your poundage is. And if you're using a glass top cook stove, don't get discouraged. I have one. You can on it. The one thing I have noticed the most is your glass top can break. So if you've got your big heavy pot on it, and it won't cool as fast as it would like on a regular range or a gas stove. So you may need to not only turn it down and up and down and up and down, but I've even had to slide mine carefully, like partially off, to adjust the temperature, because it will continue to rise as that surface has to all cool down within that range. So you can do it. You just need to be really on top of it, and you should be anyway. So I got you a couple tips here. Just make sure that you're following these steps so that you can have really healthy food, and that your supplies, your tools, these are tools that are providing you with food for you and your family, so they can last for a long period of time, especially in today's society and the things that are going on. You want to make sure you have food that you can actually eat when you need to. All right, thanks so much for watching. You guys have a great day.